Hello, my name is Jaden, and welcome to my channel. I am a Bible-believing street preacher in New York City, and today's study is going to be on the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. Now, before I get started on this video, I just want to say thank you for all the people who are enjoying the videos and are still consistently watching, and they're learning a lot. But I just want to say that it is very embarrassing and pathetic that there are people that comment on my videos and they just make outrageous, dumb claims, and they can't even back up the stuff that they're saying. It just demonstrates to me that they don't finish the videos that I make, because if they did, they wouldn't be making the claims that they are. So always remember in your Christian life to obey Proverbs 18:13, which says, "He that speaketh on a matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and a shame unto him." I take nothing personal, but considering how people respond to my videos, some of them, it's no wonder people won't get saved when Christians are, or rather so-called Christians are so pathetic on the internet. So always remember that I'm doing this out of my own time. I don't have to do this. So if you're going to come and comment something stupid, at least spend the time to give an actual rebuttal instead of just saying two sentences and then not finishing up on it. In any case, I'd like to begin this video on the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. My last video was on the Great Tribulation. So this is going to be what follows the Great Tribulation. We're going to look at Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20. So in the Bible, we believe in the premillennial return, the literal physical return of Jesus Christ, who will reign on the throne of David. We're going to be looking at a lot of verses today. This video might get a little long, so I would just prepare yourself. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20. Okay, so after Jesus Christ comes at the second coming and he brings in the Jewish kingdom, he's going to reign on the throne of David. And this is going to be called the millennial reign. Millennium as in 1000. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years be fulfilled. After that he shall be loosed a little season. Now, if you keep reading the next few verses on your own, go down and keep reading that up to verse 7. And you're going to notice that when God is speaking about these events, he says the term 1,000 years 6 times. So the majority of Christianity teaches that Jesus won't literally reign on the throne of David for 1,000 years. But God wanted you to believe that. So he put it 6 times in the passage there. Jesus is going to reign for how long? 1,000 years. 1,000-year reign. Okay, now this is called the millennium, the millennial kingdom. We'll call it that. Okay, now in this kingdom, the conditions of this kingdom are special. What makes it special is that when this kingdom comes, Jesus is going to restore creation, not completely though. He's going to regenerate the earth and restore creation for this 1,000 years. And the devil's not going to be there. So let's just go by one. In this kingdom, the devil is bound up. The devil is bound. Why is this significant? Because the devil is bound and Jesus is reigning on earth, what's going to happen is the devil won't be there to tempt anybody. So if somebody sins in that kingdom, their sin is 100% on them because they have no reason to do it. They can't say, "Oh, well, the devil made me do it," right? And that's not going to work because he's not going to be there. Now, the devil's he's not dead. He's still alive, but he's chained in the bottomless pit for this 1,000 years. So, hey man, you sin in this kingdom. Like, what's your problem? You understand? So the devil is bound in the pit. Yeah, you can see it. The devil is bound in the pit. Now, this is very significant. This is very significant. Now, let's look at these verses about Jesus restoring creation. I'm going to show you a lot of verses on this. Let's look at the verse. Matthew 19. Matthew 19. I'll show you a lot of verses on this. Jesus is going to restore creation, and the curse will be partially lifted. The curse on the earth will be partially lifted. You'll see what I mean by this in a second. Matthew chapter 19, verse 27. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Jesus said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye shall sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So notice how it says, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. So that's talking about the throne of his glory. So where does he reign? That's going to be on the throne of his glory, which is called the throne of David. Notice in the verse, it said the regeneration of the Son of Man. This is a really important detail here. Okay, let's look at some more verses. How do you know that the creation is going to be restored back to what it was in the Garden of Eden? Let's look at a lot of verses. We're going to look at the book of Isaiah. Notice how it said in the regeneration of the Son of Man. Regenerate meaning to make alive again. Right now, the earth is dying because it's under a curse and everything's winding down, right? All right. We're going to look at the book of Isaiah 51. Isaiah 51. Isaiah chapter 51. All right, we'll look at verse 1. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places. He will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. See that? You can keep reading the rest. So, now in the Bible, there's another Eden, but it's talking about the Garden of Eden because he called it the Garden of the Lord, right? So that's going to be Isaiah 51. Isaiah 51, 1 to 3. We're also going to put Matthew 19, 28. We want to look at another verse on this. Look at the book of Isaiah, same book. We're going to look at chapter 30. Chapter 30. Okay, now in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, we're going to look at verse 19. Verse 19. It says, For the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem. Thou shalt weep no more. He will be very gracious unto thee. At the voice of thy cry, when he shall hear it, he will answer thee. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner any more, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers. If you keep going, let's look at verse 23. Then shall he give the rain of thy seed, and thou shalt sow the ground withal, and the bread of the increase of the earth, and it shall be fat and plenteous. In that day shall thy cattle feed in large pastures. The oxen likewise and the young asses that ear the ground shall eat clean provender, which has been winnowed with the shovel and with the fan. If you keep reading, look at verse 26. Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of his people and healeth the stroke of their wound. Well, that is a remarkable verse. So the animals are going to eat clean, cleaner than they've ever ate, right? But he's saying that in that day, he says that the sun is going to shine brighter, 7 times brighter than it's ever been. And that the moon, this is a remarkable verse, but that the moon is going to shine as bright as the sun. See that? So that's really interesting. So it'll shine like this. So the current brightness of the sun now will shine that much, but then the sun will shine even hotter. So all the atheists are talking about, climate change and global warming. Yeah, well, yeah, it's coming, just not the way that they say it's going to come, right? So let's look at another verse on this. We want to look at Isaiah 32. Isaiah 32. The Bible has more prophecies about the second coming of Christ and the millennial kingdom than any other topic in the scriptures. You would think more people would believe it, but they don't. Let's look at the book of Isaiah 32, and we're going to look at verse 15. Verse 15. until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, and the wilderness be a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be counted for a forest. Then judgment shall dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness remain in the fruitful field. See that? And the work of righteousness shall be peace. So in the Millennium Kingdom, it's perfect peace. It's supposed to be anyway. And the effect of righteousness, quietness, and assurance forever. And my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation, and in sure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. When it shall hail, coming down on the forest, and the city shall be in a low place. So the environment is going to be fruitful. There's going to be, by the way, it's also, like I said, it's peaceable habitation. So let's look at another verse. We want to look at the book of Isaiah 33. Isaiah 33. We're going to look at the verse 20. Look upon Zion, the city of our solemnities. Thine eyes shall see Jerusalem, a quiet habitation. Well, you read that in chapter 32. Is Jerusalem right now a quiet habitation? No. So it's in danger every day from the so-called Palestinians. A tabernacle that shall not be taken down. Well, it's been taken down before. It's going to be taken down again in the future. So this is a millennium reference. Not one of the stakes thereof shall ever be removed, neither shall any of the cords thereof be broken. But there the glorious Lord will be unto us a place of broad rivers and streams, wherein shall go no galley with oars, neither shall gallant ship pass thereby. Look at verse 23. Thy tacklings are loosed. They could not strengthen their mast. They could not spread the sail. Then is the prey of a great spoil divided. The lame take the prey. And the inhabitants, so the inhabitant in Jerusalem, what are they going to say? The inhabitant shall not say, I am sick. The people that dwell therein shall be forgiven their iniquity. So notice the really weird construct of the verse. The charismatic blew it. They were 2,000 years off the right promise. This passage about healing and sickness is forgiven. That's in the millennium. So in the millennium, you're not going to have people who are lame and can't walk and mutant diseases. That won't be there anymore. Because it'll be like the Garden of Eden, and there were no diseases in the Garden of Eden. So you can look at these passages. It's going to be Isaiah 33:24. Also, there was 32, 15 onwards. You can read the rest of that. All right, let's try another one. We're going to look at the book of Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah 11. Now, this one is a fascinating one. This one is honestly one of the coolest parts about the Millennium Kingdom, for me personally anyway. Isaiah chapter 11. Okay, and we're going to look at verse 6. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. So you're going to have these giant animals that right now, if you try to pet the animal, it will bite your arm off. Well, it says a little child shall lead them. Imagine you see a little kid walking a tiger around. Well, you'd be like, what? Or riding an elephant, and the elephant doesn't get mad. You know what I mean? The millennium's going to be cool. Now it says in verse 7, and the cow and the bear shall feed. The young one shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Do lions eat straw right now? I mean, yeah, they may eat stuff in nature, but they're carnivorous. That in the future they won't be. Verse 8, and the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. That is a fascinating passage. Do any of the expositors believe that? They don't, because they're amillennial. They think that the kingdom's not coming, or we're already in the kingdom. You miss out on some cool stuff, man. This is coming in the future, and when Jesus reigns on earth. All right. So now, one of the most important things, so I actually wanted to go back to this part. So nature, so let me actually just readjust this real quick. Nature is going to be redeemed. The curse, let me use a different color. The curse will be partially lifted, okay? That's what you got to understand. What do you mean by partially lifted? Well, this is on nature and the earth. That's what's being regenerated. Now, because nature will be regenerated and you're not going to be eating corrupted, cursed food, you're going to live a long time. Now, you're not going to live 900 years like Methuselah and Adam, but you're going to live a couple hundred years. And you know that because Isaiah says that a man shall be called an infant of days at how old? 100 years old. So a person who's considered a kid, a youngin, is going to be someone who's 100 years old. That's crazy. But it makes sense because if the conditions of the environment are like the Garden of Eden, then you should be living proportionate to that environment. The reason why you die young now is because our environment is cursed. So the climate change people are trying to save the environment. It's cursed. You die because what you put in your mouth is cursed. And your blood system is cursed. You're under a curse. Well, when you get saved, the curse has no hold on you, but your body is still under the effects of it until the rapture. So nature is temporarily restored to be like Eden. Like Eden. That's going to be cool. Okay, now let's go to the next part. So I want to come back to this thing here about the throne of David. This throne of David is special. So Jesus is going to be reigning on the throne of David. Let's look at a lot of verses on this. Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9. This should just end the conversation right here. But people are so like Bible stubborn that I like to show a lot of verses so that I can leave them without an argument. Verse 6, Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace, look, peace, there shall be no end. See that? Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So look where it says he's going to reign. It says he's going to reign on the throne of David. Throne of David. That's Isaiah 9:6-7. Now, a lot of people, they spiritualize all the verses because they don't want this to happen. They like the kingdom right now. Let's look at another verse. You know what's interesting, actually? You see this term, the throne of David? The name of David's throne, the name of it changes in the Old Testament. Did you know that? Look at this. Go to First Chronicles. First Chronicles. You know, God put stuff like this in Chronicles because nobody reads Chronicles. First Chronicles 29. First Chronicles 29. Look what one of the names, and I have there's a couple of witnesses to this verse. First Chronicles chapter 29, verse 23. Solomon, who's a type of Christ, where does he sit? Then Solomon sat on the throne of the Lord as king instead of David. Why didn't it say that Solomon sat on the throne of David? It's called the throne of the Lord here. Let me show you another witness to this. Jeremiah chapter 3. Jeremiah 3. Jeremiah 3. Jeremiah chapter 3. Verse 17 says, and at that time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of the Lord, and all the nations shall be gathered unto it, to the name of the Lord, to Jerusalem. Neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of their evil heart. That's two witnesses. That's two witnesses. We're going to use Brown. It's going to be called the throne of the Lord. Now, I have a third witness to this. The third witness to this verse I'm going to come to later when I discuss the millennial priesthood. So that's going to be First Chronicles 29:23. And it's also going to be Jeremiah 3:17. There's a fourth witness to this, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there later. Okay. Now, if the prophecy here is talking about Jesus reigning on this throne, what type of reign is Jesus going to reign as? You might say, what do I mean by that? Well, it says that in Isaiah 9 that it's going to be peace. Peace. So let me show you something interesting about this. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 19. Revelation 19. Revelation chapter 19. And then I'm going to start getting into really interesting details. You may have never heard about this kingdom. Revelation 19. Revelation 19. Okay, we're going to look at verse 15. And out of his mouth, this is about the second coming, goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. He shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierce and the wrath of Almighty God. Okay, so what is Jesus's type of reign? How is he reigning? It's gonna be with a rod of iron. Rod of iron. That's gonna be Revelation 19:15. Now you might say, what are some examples of this? Are there any prophets in the Old Testament that give us more insight of what this means? Oh, you bet. And the verses are so negative that the scholars just they ignore them. But look how embarrassing this is. We're gonna look at the book. We're gonna look at the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 49, Isaiah 49. Look at this one. Look at this one. 49 and verse 21. Isaiah 49:21. Then thou shalt say in thine heart, who hath begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children, and am desolate, a captive, and removing to and fro? And who hath brought up these? Behold, I was left alone these. Where had they been? Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up mine hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughter shall be carried upon their shoulders, the Gentiles. And the king shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord. So the kings, the Gentiles. Okay, so here's Jesus. Here's Jesus' little chair, his little throne. Here's Jesus reigning on the throne of David. Here's Jesus reigning on the throne of David. Let's do it differently, all right? Now, this is just too embarrassing. So they say, no, this is not literal. This is not a literal verse. It's 100% literal. Here's Christ reigning on the throne of David, the throne of the Lord. And all the nations are going to have to come in to him with their sons, the Gentile nations. All of them are going to have to come to Christ. And who else? The Jews, because that passage is to the Jews. These are all the nations, right? The Gentile nations. They will have to nurse and they will have to work and serve the Jews. And if they don't, God will, oh, and by the way, he says he's going to make them lick the dust of their feet. Let me show you something else. Stay in Isaiah. Go to Psalm 110. Psalm 110. Psalm 110. Psalm 110. It says in verse 1, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. The Lord shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Notice how here the enemies of God, of Jesus, are his footstool. Well, what's happening here? They got to come and serve him and the Jews. Now, if we go back to Isaiah 49, that's why I told you to stay there. Isaiah 49, it says that in verse 23, it says, they shall bow down to thee with their face towards the earth and lick up the dust of thy feet. That means they're going to be bowing down in front of Christ, and Christ is going to have his feet on their necks, and they will lick up the dust. Isn't that what the nations do to the Jews now? The nations make the Jews to serve them, and they persecute them, and even the Christians hate the Jews now. Well, don't worry. When God redeems the Jews, the Gentiles are going to be on the receiving end of it. They're going to lick up the dust of the Jews. And you think that's just one verse? Here's another one. Here's another one. Isaiah 60. Isaiah 60. Isaiah chapter 60. It says in verse 9, surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. And the son of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, that their kings may be brought. Look at this. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Oh, that is pure, unadulterated Zionism. The greatest Zionist is Christ himself. Go to Psalm chapter 2. Go to Psalm chapter 2. Psalm chapter 2. These guys are always talking about, you Christian Zionists. What you talking about, man? I just believe it was written in the prophets. God is the ultimate Zionist, dude. He's the ultimate Zionist. I didn't say it. He said it. Look at this. Psalm chapter 2. What happens about if a nation refuses to worship Christ? Psalms chapter 2. Psalms. And we're going to look at verse 7. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said unto me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and for the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them, look, with a rod of iron. Jesus is reigning as a military dictator. He's not playing games. Let's keep reading. It says, thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little. That's just too negative. That's just too negative. That's Psalms. I'll put it over here. That's Psalms 2. 7 to 12. It's a rod of iron. All the nations have to come in and lick the dust of the Jews and Christ. And they don't want to do it. They go bye-bye. See that? Well, that's just too negative, man. That's just too negative for these people. Oh, the Jews are evil. George Soros controls the world. Blah, blah, blah. They're going to get the kingdom. They're going to get the kingdom no matter what you do, dude. All right. So let's look at another thing about the Millennium Kingdom. Go to Zechariah chapter 13. Zechariah. So now I'm going to go into the government more in depth. So this is the type of government. Let me write that for you. This is the type of government. It's going to be a military dictatorship. He's ruling with a rod of iron. Humanity had their chance to govern and show God how good they are for 6,000 years. Now Christ is going to show up and show you how it's done. He's going to show up and show you how it's done. He's reigning with this rod of iron. All the nations will come into Jerusalem to worship him at his temple. Let's look at Zechariah chapter 13. Now, we're going to go into specifics now. We're going to go into specifics now about the temple, the priesthood, and the laws of the Millennial Kingdom and hell. See, what does hell have to do with this? You'll see. Zechariah chapter 13. Let's look at this passage. We're going to look at verse 3. It shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the name of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of the Lord. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth. Wow, why is that so harsh? Oh, the nice Jesus. Well, Christ, you're being given here by God a prophecy that there are no prophets. No prophets. If you prophesy about the death, burial, and resurrection, you were put to death in the Millennial Kingdom. You're a false prophet, dude. That already came to pass. What do you need the death, burial, and resurrection for? What do you need salvation by grace through faith? You missed that chance. You got to get saved this way now. There's no prophets. None whatsoever. If you want to know what the rules are for the Millennium Kingdom, open a Bible. The King James Bible will still be there. So we have no more prophets in this kingdom. That means even the false prophets that are prophesying lies, Even if you're prophesying something that was true, it's still a lie. So you can't prophesy in this kingdom at all. Whoa, that's too harsh. Why would Jesus do that? He's ruling with a rod of iron. You've been putting up with your nonsense, this world's nonsense for forever, dude. So now it's his rules. It's his rules. Okay. So now we're going to look at something interesting here. We're going to be looking at the government. So you say, how is this all going to work? Let's go to Isaiah 34. Let's start with the most negative part about this. Isaiah chapter 34. So in the Great Tribulation, at the end, when Jesus comes at the second advent, he strikes an area called Edom. Edom is south of Israel. And you can read about the prophecy about that in Obadiah. And I'm going to show you the other verse in Isaiah 34. But when Jesus strikes Edom, that area becomes a lake of fire. You say, what do I mean by that? So when Jesus comes in the second coming, he is going to strike Edom because he has a sacrifice in Bozrah. Bozrah is Edom. The passage we're about to read talks about Edumea. Edumea is Edom, right? It's all the same region. And what's going to happen is that when he strikes Edom, Christ is going to create a visible opening to hell. So that area will become a visible entrance into hell so that everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. You say, what? Yeah, let me show you. Isaiah 34. Now, look how God wants you to know this. So he says in verse 1, come near, ye nations, to hear. Hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear and all that is therein, for the world and all the things to come forth of it. That verse is to the entire planet, not to the nation of Israel. It's to everybody. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, and he hath delivered them to the slaughter. See that? Look at verse 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea is Edom. That's what I was getting at. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness and with the blood of lambs and goats, and the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Once again, that's Edom. Now, verse 8, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of the recompenses for the controversy of Zion. So everything you just read there, those last few verses, that's all the second advent. But look what happens here. Verse 9, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch. It shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation, it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. You see that? There's a burning pitch here that burns forever and ever when he strikes Edom here. And it's going to be visible. Everyone can see it. Now look at this. Verse 11. You can read this on your own. Verse 11 to 15. All the birds in that list are unclean birds. Notice how he said there's a sacrifice in Bozrah. A sacrifice in Bozrah. Revelation chapter 9. You know how many people are there that Christ kills at the second coming? It says 200,000. That is 200 million troops. Well, who's going to clean up all those dead bodies? What do these birds do? Owls and ravens and cormorants. They're scavengers, like vultures. What do? They eat dead bodies. That's what the birds are there for. And God wanted you to believe this so much that after 15 verses about hell and this sacrifice, verse 16 says, seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. That means if you don't believe it, just pick up the book and read it. It's going to happen, with or without your opinion. Christ is going to come, annihilate all his enemies in Edom, and then that area is going to become a burning pitch of fire, and all the birds are going to be in that area cleaning up the dead bodies of his enemies. And in the Millennial Kingdom, you will see this visible portal to hell. So you want to sin. You want to sin and go harass your brother and this and that when it's peace on earth. Now, this lake of fire is not the lake of fire. So when the Antichrist, in Revelation 19, when the false prophet and the beast are thrown into hell, it's talking about this. It's talking about this. See that? Okay. Now, this topic deserves its own video because it's a more in-depth topic, but I'm just going through the basics of the kingdom. This is for the basic doctrine playlist, so I don't want to get too crazy. Although this is already a lot of information, right? Okay, so think about this. The devil's in the pit, no temptation. You can see hell visibly. You're not going to be tempted, and it's perfect peace on earth, no diseases. Christ is reigning perfectly. So can you imagine? Oh, by the way, you live a long time too. Can you think in that kingdom, if you sin, how grave the sin is? What you sinning for? You got peace on earth. Well, what God is trying to test humanity on is, okay, humanity's always talking about we need peace on earth to solve all our problems. The problem is war. Well, when Christ reigns for 1,000 years, you're going to get your chance to demonstrate if the problem is really peace or if the problem is you. And we know the answer. At the end of the Millennial Kingdom, Jesus lets the devil out of the pit to see what humanity will do. And what do? They rebel on him. They rebel and turn against him because they hate the Jews. So humanity's going to have all that time to tell us how good they are, only for us to find out that it ends in apostasy. It ends in apostasy. Okay, so now I want to get into the millennial priesthood. Okay, so what is the millennial priesthood? Well, in the Millennial Kingdom, Jesus is going to have the third temple. So these guys online are always talking about the third temple is going to be built. The third temple is going to be built. Yeah, but the real third temple is the temple that Christ built. The one that's coming, we don't even know if we're going to be here to see it. But the one that's coming is not going to be the actual third temple. It's a pseudo temple. They don't even have an Ark of the Covenant or any way to do animal sacrifices. You understand? So when they do build a false temple, let me just reiterate. There is a false temple coming, but it's not the third temple. It's a third temple. The actual third temple that God cares about is this one that he's going to get. This one is called the Millennial Temple. The Millennial Temple. This is going to be the one that Christ sets up. Christ sets up. Now, this temple, it's going to, you know what's going to happen in this temple? We're going to get a reinstitution of the Levitical priesthood. You say, what? Yeah, the Levitical priesthood will be reinstituted and the Jews will be offering up animal sacrifices. What I just said is heresy, supposedly heresy to all the fundamentalists. That's because they don't believe what they're reading. Go to Colossians chapter 2. Go to Colossians chapter 2. You see, the problem with so many Christians is that because they don't believe what they're reading, they say, no, that's heresy. You can't have that. You can't have that. That doesn't make any sense. Didn't Jesus die one time for sins? So why are the animal sacrifices coming back? Well, you got to actually see the verses and understand why. It's not for no reason. It's not for no reason. Okay. So this is a little temple, the Temple Mount. And it's going to be a big, big temple. Right? You can just, that's my really bad temple. Okay. Now, who's going to be inside this temple? Well, obviously, Christ is going to be in this temple. He'll be inside there. There's no need for the Ark of the Covenant because the Holy of Holies is there already. See that? Christ is there. There's no need for that. Okay. Now, we're going to look at some things on this millennial priesthood. Go to Colossians chapter 2. Colossians chapter 2. Paul tells you, that this is going to happen. Colossians chapter 2 and verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days. Everything there is Jewish. Verse 17, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Which means that these things, we are exempted from them, but it's a shadow of things to come, which means that these things will come. They will come. Go to Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14. Your opinion is irrelevant. the Sabbath and new moons and the feasts and the animal sacrifices, they will come again. I'm going to show you a lot of verses on this. We're going to put the priesthood here. The priesthood here. Yeah, you can see it. This is called the millennial priesthood. See that? Millennial priesthood. All right. Zechariah 14, verse 9. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Lord, and his name one. That is literal. That is literal. All right, let's keep reading. It says in verse, we're going to look at verse 16. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? The Jews are not doing that right now. They're keeping the feast. Which feast? Feast of Tabernacles. See that? That's literal. That's literal. You know why? This is a Jewish kingdom. Why wouldn't they be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles? Colossians said it was a shadow of things to come. But the bodies of Christ, this is one of those things that we're exempted from. We don't keep the Feast of Tabernacles, but they will. They will. See that? Okay. Let me show you some more verses now. So the thing is, the Levites are going to be in this priesthood. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. The Levites are going to be reigning, or not rather reigning, but they're going to be ministering to Christ in this temple. And the thing is, it's not just any Levites. You can go check it for yourself. The Levites that are going to be in this temple are going to be the family of Zadok. Who is the family of Zadok? You'll find them in 1 Kings 2:35. The family of Zadok is the group of the scribes, the Levites, that were faithful to God when the Jews and the priests were going apostate and worshiping other gods. These were the Levites that were actually faithful in all their house. And these are, they're Levites. So even though the Levites as a whole are going to be ministering to Christ, not all of them are going to be in the temple itself. I'm going to show you some verses on this. All right, we're going to look at the book of, to show you that there's a restoration of the feast. Let me show you one more verse. I actually want to go to chapter 45. Look how the order of the restoration matches Colossians chapter 2 perfectly. Verse 17, it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings, meat offerings, drink offerings in the feasts, new moons, Sabbaths, and all the solemnities of the house of Israel. He shall prepare the sin offering, the meat offering, the burnt offering, the peace offering to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. Look at the verse. The offerings are not for individual sins. This is what the fundamentalists can't understand. The house of Israel is not offering up animal sacrifices for individual people. They are offering up animal sacrifices for the nation of Israel as God's corporate son. That's the difference. That's the difference. This is what people can't understand. It's a national atonement as a corporate body. It's not for individual sins. You understand? People don't understand this. When God is dealing with the Jews, he's dealing with them as a nation. He's not dealing with them individually. He deals with you individually because you're the Christian, but we're in a different time right now. You get it? So this is going to be Ezekiel. This is going to be Ezekiel. It even says it in the verse. It says reconciliation for the house of Israel. House. That's everybody. Let me show you some more verses on this, just so that you don't think I'm blowing my smoke. Stay on Ezekiel. Keep a tab on Ezekiel and go to 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles 29. Verse 21. And they brought 7 bullocks, 7 rams, 7 lambs, 7 he-goats for a sin offering for the kingdom and for the sanctuary and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the son of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Lord. So they killed the bullocks, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Likewise, when they had killed the rams, they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. They killed also the lambs, and they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. And they brought forth the he-goats for the sin offering before the king and the congregation, and they laid their hands upon them. And the priests killed them and made reconciliation with their blood upon the altar to make an atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel, not for individual sins. That's what this is for the Millennial Kingdom. It's the same system. It's not for individual people. So just because Jesus paid sacrifices for past, present, future, this is not for that. This is for something else. You understand what's going on here? 2 Chronicles 29:24. Here, let me show you another verse. Ezra chapter 6. Ezra, the book of Ezra. A lot of these people that don't understand this are people that don't study the law of Moses. That's the problem. Honestly, half of this would be solved if people would just study the law of Moses. Paul often says in the New Testament, I speak to them that know the law. Well, Christians don't know the law. They don't study the law of Moses. This is not confusing if you just read the law of Moses. The animal sacrifices are for the nation as a corporate system, not for individual salvation to go to hell and heaven. That's not it. It's for something else. Understand that? You say, why is that the case? Well, because sin is still present in the universe, but God redeemed them because he gave them the new covenant. He put the law in their mind that they won't betray him anymore. But not everybody has that covenant. Not everyone has that covenant. That's only the Jews in the Millennial Kingdom. The curse is still on the earth. It's partially lifted. Sin doesn't go away until they eat of the tree of life when eternity begins, and then they lose the curse. But until then, there's still sin. See the problem? So the animal sacrifices are not for individual people, because the new covenant takes care of that. It's for the nation of Israel as a whole. That's it. That's all it is. Ezra chapter 6, verse 17. And they offered at the dedication of the house of God 100 bullocks, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and a sin offering for all Israel, not individuals. Not individuals. Ezra, that's another one. Ezra 6:17. So that's why you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Just because you don't understand something, and by the way, even the explanation I'm giving you right now is not 100% satisfactory. And I know that, but you have to believe what you're reading. They're offering up the sacrifices for the nation as a corporate body. Now, I don't quite understand how that works if Jesus pays for all sins, but it doesn't matter what you think. It's our understanding that's not complete. And what the verses are showing you is that there is the sins are being offered, the sin offerings are being offered for reconciliation for the house. How that works, we don't know. We're not God. See what I mean? So don't throw the verses away like the fundamentalists. If you don't understand something, leave it alone. But don't try to bring someone else down to your level of ignorance because you want the verses to say something that it doesn't say. They're offering animal sacrifices. Now, let me actually show you. Go back to Ezekiel. And then after this part here, I'm going to show you what the salvation is in the millennium. I'll show you what salvation is in the millennium. We're going to look at the book of Ezekiel 43. Ezekiel 43. We're going to look at verse 18. And he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith the Lord God, these are the ordinances of the altar and the day when they shall make it to offer burnt offerings thereon and sprinkle blood thereon. And thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me and minister unto me, saith the Lord God, a young bullock for a sin offering. See that? Now you can read the rest of that on your own. Read that all the way to 27. It's the reinstitution of the Levitical priesthood. Just read that whole section there. I want to get to the salvation part. I don't want the video to get too crazy long. The next little bit here, the next little bit to keep in mind is I was talking earlier about this right here, the throne of the Lord, and how I mentioned that it's called that because Jesus is the Lord. He sits on that throne. Look at Ezekiel 43. Look at verse 7. The angel of the Lord is speaking, the glory of the Lord. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the places of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, etc., etc. Well, he said, well, that's the angel of the Lord, but the angel of the Lord is Jesus. Look what he said. He said, Son of man, the place of my throne. That's Ezekiel 43:7. Ezekiel 43:7. The place of my throne. Which, by the way, the whole purpose of the book of Hebrews being written is that the law, Leviticus, had to be amended because Christ paid for all sins. So that's why this law works different in the future than it does in the past. So let's keep looking at this. We're going to look at the book of Ezekiel 44. Ezekiel 44. Verse 9. Thus saith the Lord God, no stranger uncircumcised in heart, nor uncircumcised in flesh shall enter into my sanctuary of any stranger that is among the children of Israel. That sounds a lot like the law of Moses. It's a revised version of it. Okay, so I don't want to get too stuck on this because I want to get into salvation. But if you want to study more on the Levitical priesthood in the Millennial Kingdom, study Ezekiel. Study these chapters. It's going to be Ezekiel 40 to 48, these chapters. It gives you the measurements of the millennial temple, the priesthood, how it works, what the altars that they're offering up, and it gives you the name of the tribe and everything. All right, Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2. What is salvation in the millennial kingdom? Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2. Verse 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many shall say, go and say, Come ye, and let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Okay. So the salvation in this kingdom, it's very special. Go to Matthew chapter 5. The salvation in this kingdom, it says the law out of where? Zion. Now, okay, so it says the law shall come out. We know that because I just showed you that the law is obviously there because they're offering up animal sacrifices. Now, what type of salvation is it? It's going to be works by sight. There is no faith in this dispensation. How could there be faith when you see Christ literally reigning on the throne of David? There's no faith. It's works by sight. If creation is restored to being like the Garden of Eden and God is literally there, there's no faith. And you know how you know there's no faith? Because the law is given to you. So not only do you see the king who's reigning, who is God, who gave the law, you also have the law written down because the Bible will be there. Go to Matthew chapter 5. Now I'm going to show you what this is talking about. People love to use the Sermon on the Mount. The liberals love the Sermon on the Mount. But the Sermon on the Mount is not for today. Now, we use a lot of it. A lot of it is very good spiritually for the Christian. But we're talking doctrine here. Doctrinally, the Sermon on the Mount is a reference to the millennial kingdom and its laws. Again, the laws have to work different in that kingdom because now God is on earth. He's not dealing with imperfect humans like Moses and Aaron. Now it's him himself. And since he's perfect and righteous in judgment, the laws have to change to accommodate that. See that? So now, let's look at a couple verses you may have read. And actually, before I show you how you know this, in the Sermon on the Mount, what is he preaching to them? He's preaching to them the gospel of the kingdom. See that? The gospel of the kingdom. And what accompanies the gospel of the kingdom? The name of the kingdom is called the kingdom of heaven. Kingdom of heaven. This kingdom is not the same as the kingdom of God. They're not the same. Matthew chapter 11. Look at Matthew chapter 11. This deserves its own study, but I just want to get to the end of this. Matthew chapter 11. This kingdom is a literal, physical, earthly kingdom that was promised to the nation of Israel. This kingdom manifests itself as the 1,000-year reign when Christ comes and fulfills it. Matthew chapter 11, in verse 11. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. Is that a spiritual kingdom? No, that's not a spiritual kingdom, dude. No, it's a physical kingdom. Well, how is it that all the Jews know this and the Christians don't know this? Well, because the Jews, the Orthodox Jews, believe their Tanakh, and they're looking for a kingdom. And they had every right to expect the kingdom when Jesus showed up. In Acts chapter 1, when Jesus is about to leave, the disciples ask him, Lord, will thou altogether at this time restore again to us the kingdom? And Jesus says, it's not for you to know the times or the seasons. Had they accepted Stephen's testimony, they would have gotten the kingdom, but they didn't because they stoned him. You can get more information on that in my postponement video. So if you go to Matthew chapter 7, all those prophecies that you read about the Garden of Eden, that the Millennial Kingdom will be like the Garden of Eden, all those prophecies you read about Messiah reigning on the throne of David, did any of that happen? No, it didn't happen. So you know what Jesus says? Look at this verse, Matthew chapter 7 and verse 12. Matthew 7:12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. This is referring to the speech he just gave on the Sermon on the Mount. Well, if the kingdom, if Jesus is a fulfillment of the law and the prophets, you have a contradiction. Because if Jesus is saying that what he's speaking is a fulfillment of the law and the prophets, and he didn't fulfill those prophecies, that means that has to come back in the future and be fulfilled in the future. Because he said, not one jot nor tittle shall in no wise pass away until all be fulfilled. Well, I just read you this last hour, all these verses in the law and the prophets that never happened. And what do they have to do with? The kingdom that they were looking for. See what I mean? So when you're reading the Sermon on the Mount, you're not reading salvation today. The Sermon on the Mount, 5, 6, and 7, every single verse is straight works. There's no faith in any of these verses. Because why? The Sermon on the Mount is what? It's the constitution for the kingdom. It's the constitution. It's the law of the kingdom. I'm going to show you some examples of how ridiculous these verses are unless you apply them to the kingdom. Matthew chapter 5. So by the way, see, people are like, oh, we're in the tribulation right now, but we're not in the great tribulation. You are a moron. Because in the beginning of the tribulation, before the end, they're preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Gospel right now is not the gospel of the kingdom. That gospel of the kingdom is the good news of the millennial inheritance that the Jews are supposed to get, and they never got it. So when the tribulation begins in the beginning of sorrows, what are the 144,000 preaching? The gospel of the kingdom. Because everything that took place at the first coming is going to take place again at the second coming. Except this time they'll actually get the kingdom. Yeah? Okay. Matthew chapter 5. Look at verse 17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law of the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Here's an example of a very ridiculous verse if you try to apply it to the church age. Verse 21, ye have heard that it was said of them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, is in danger of the hellfire. What? You think I'm worried about going to hell for 2 minutes because I called someone a fool? Didn't Jesus call the Pharisees fools in Matthew 23? But no, in the millennial kingdom, when there's perfect peace on earth, and there's no diseases, and there's food, and everyone gets to eat, and no one's starving and dying, and you get to live a couple 100 years, what are you calling your brother fool for? You're in danger of being thrown in here, the millennial lake of fire. What you're calling him a fool for? You should have no beef with him. There's no reason for you to have beef with your brother. It's perfect peace. Just give him what he wants. Here's another one. Verse 29, if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. In that kingdom, it's better to lose your eye than be thrown in here, the millennial lake of fire. And that's what this is talking about. It's better to have your arm cut off as punishment than to go to hell here. Because who's there reigning with Christ? The Christians are. And you're going to have a billion, whatever, Christians walking around who have perfect, sinless bodies, just like Jesus Christ. And we're going to be the ones throwing people in there if they sin against him. This is not talking about today. This verse is absolutely silly. And people thought that we were in the tribulation. People were shredding their arms because they thought that was the mark of the beast. No. How about this one? It says in verse 38, ye have heard that it had been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. The liberals love this verse. But this is in the kingdom. Somebody harasses you, you turn the other way because they're going to be in danger of being thrown in here. I'm not worried about turning the right cheek or the other cheek. If you're a fool, I'm going to call you a fool. You think I'm worried about going to hell? These sissy Christians love to sit in this passage about Sermon on the Mount and say, oh, you can't defend yourself and you're not supposed to hate evil. Jesus is love. Are you saved? I hope you are. Because Jesus' love is tied to the cross. If you're not saved, the Bible doesn't say Jesus loves you. It says you're under the wrath of God. What are these fools going to this verse? Oh, you should just turn the other cheek. See that? You're supposed to hate what God hates. You're just not supposed to let that lead you to sin. But if God is your Father and God is your God, you should hate what he hates. Now, it's because God is dealing with grace. We're to have more grace with people. But you see all these hypocrites. Oh, I love everybody because Jesus is love. How about the Muslims that raped those women on October 7th? Do you love them too? I don't have very good things to say about that, right? This whole love thing is self-righteous. It's not human or Bible. And so they go to Sermon on the Mount. How about verse 40? If any man will sue thee at thy law, take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. If somebody goes to court in the Millennial Kingdom and they sue you, instead of having a beef between the two and getting lawyers, just give the guy your coat and let him have it. Is that right now? No. Verse 41, whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. This is all in the kingdom. This 5, 6, and 7, this is all about the Millennial Kingdom. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, you can apply tons of this stuff to your life. Very good. But some of it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. See what I mean? Even the prayer in this. Look at this prayer, verse 9. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. That's a Jewish prayer for the second coming. Are you praying this prayer? No, you're not a Jew. You're not waiting for the tribulation. You're waiting for the rapture. So, Sermon on the Mount, when you read it in that light, and you understand that the Sermon on the Mount is the law of the kingdom, and what's in this kingdom? Perfect peace. You understand why all those verses are so accommodating. Because in that kingdom, you need to be. It's salvation by works. No faith. And it's sight-based. Because you see Christ. You see him physically. You understand? All these guys are like, oh, dispensationalism is heresy. Yeah, you're just stupid. How do you reconcile these verses? You don't. You don't, unless you believe what you're reading. But most Christians are anti-Semitic. So they're running their mouth about dispensationalism being heresy because dispensationalism preserves the Jew. I tell people, if you respect where the Jew is in the Bible, you will have no issue with wrong doctrine. But most Christians are Jew haters. So that's why I don't spend 5 minutes arguing with them about this doctrine, because they don't like the Jew. They don't respect the Jew in the Bible. They think the whole Bible's for them. So we'll close it out on there. Pray God bless you from the video. This video is quite long, but this is going to go on the basic doctrine playlist. This is just an overview. I didn't get into the specifics. This requires its own study. The millennial priesthood requires its own study. I'm going to be doing it in the future. I'm just trying to touch on all the generalities. Pray God bless you from the video. Check all the verses, and don't just assume I'm telling you the truth because I'm teaching it. You should be sitting under a church and pastor, and you should be learning from a Bible-believing church. Do not sit online and make this your house ministry. It is not good for you. These people online are stupid. They don't have any Bible knowledge, and all they do is type stupid comments and make ridiculous statements. And these people probably have never even witnessed to somebody. Christians in this Laodicean period are tough guy Christians, but they're not out there doing anything for the Lord. So don't waste your time on the internet. This is good bonus knowledge, but I really urge you not to stay online. All right, so I'll make the board available. Grace be to you all.